Welcome back to Bible Quizzes. We have 80 questions for you guys based on deaths in the Bible. Let's get started. 1. Fill in the blank. It is appointed unto men blank to die. Never, once, finally, or twice. Once. Hebrews 9:27. And as it is appointed for men to die once, but after this the judgment. 2. How many Egyptian chariots did God drown in the Red Sea? 600, 6,000, 600,000, or all the chariots of Egypt? All the chariots of Egypt. Exodus 14:7. Also he took 600 choice chariots and all the chariots of Egypt with captains over every one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh king of Egypt, and he pursued the children of Israel. 3. Where does the power of death and life lie? In the soul, mind, tongue, or spirit? Tongue. Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. 4. Who among the apostles said, to live is Christ and to die is gain? Paul, Peter, James, or John? Paul. Philippians 1:21. For to me to live is Christ and to die is gain. Paul and Timothy are the writers of the book of Philippians. This makes Paul the answer. 5. Fill in the blank. Blank in his sight is the death of his saints. Tragic, precious, joyful, or sorrowful? Precious. Psalms 116:15. Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. 6. How was Korah killed for raising a conspiracy against Moses? Stoned, struck by lightning, the earth swallowed him, or buried alive? Earth swallowed him. Numbers 26:10. And the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up together with Korah when that company died, when the fire devoured 250 men and they became a sign. 7. Whom did Saul use to massacre the priests because his servants couldn't die? Doeg, Abner, Jonathan, or Abiram? Doeg. 1 Samuel 22:18. And the king said to Doeg, you turn and kill the priests. So Doeg the Edomite turned and struck the priests and killed on that day 85 men who wore a linen ephod. 8. Who buried Abraham? Isaac and Jacob, Sarah and Hagar, Jacob and Esau, or Isaac and Ishmael? Isaac and Ishmael. Genesis 25:9. And his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the field of Ephron the son of Zohar the Hittite. 9. Where was Joseph's body put after his death? In a pyramid in Ramses, in a coffin in Egypt, along the banks of the Nile, or in a cave in Goshen? In a coffin in Egypt. Genesis 50:26. So Joseph died being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. 10. During the 5th plague, what killed the livestock of the Egyptians? Pestilence, fire, hail, or locusts? Pestilence. Exodus 9:3. Behold, the hand of the Lord will be on your cattle in the field, on the horses, on the donkeys, on the camels, on the oxen, and on the sheep, a very severe pestilence. 11. How did God kill Nadab and Abihu? With lightning, with a plague, with fire, or with a flood? With fire. Leviticus 10:1-2. Then Nadab and Abihu each took his censer and put fire in it, put incense on it, and offered profane fire before the Lord, which he had not commanded them. So fire went out from the Lord and devoured them, and they died. 12. How did the spies who brought a bad report die? By stoning, fire, stoning, or a plague? Plague. Numbers 14:36-37. Now the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land made all the congregation complain against him by bringing a bad report of the land. Those very men who brought the evil report about the land died by the plague. 13. Where did Miriam die? The wilderness of Sin, wilderness of Moab, wilderness of Zin, or wilderness of Paran? Wilderness of Zin. Numbers 21. Then the children of Israel, the whole congregation, came into the wilderness of Zin in the first month, and the people stayed in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. 14. How long did the Israelites mourn for Moses? 30 days, 40 days, 50 days, or 20 days? 30 days. Deuteronomy 34:8. And the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. So the days of weeping and mourning of Moses for Moses ended. 15. Who among Jacob's sons killed men in an entire city to avenge their sister's defilement? Reuben and Simeon, Judah and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, or Simeon and Levi? Simeon and Levi. Genesis 34:25-26. Now it came to pass on the third day, when they were in pain, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took a sword and came boldly upon the city and killed all the males. 16. Where was Rachel buried? Ephrath, Bethlehem, Shechem, Hebron, or Bethel? Ephrath, Bethlehem. Genesis 35:19. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. 17. What did Jacob do to mark Rachel's grave? Planted a tree, set a pillar, built an altar, or dug a well? Set a pillar. Genesis 35:20. And Jacob set a pillar on her grave, which is the pillar of Rachel's grave to this day. 18. Fill in the blank. Whoever kills any man shall surely be... put to death. Leviticus 24:17. Whoever kills any man shall surely be put to death. 19. What death was given to those with familiar spirits? Burning, stoning, hanging, or drowning? Stoning. Leviticus 20:27. A man or woman who is a medium or who has familiar spirits shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones. Their blood shall be upon them. 20. How did the 250 men who offered incense illegally die in the Korah incident? Plague, flood, fire from the Lord, or paralysis? Fire from the Lord. Numbers 16:35. And a fire came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who were offering incense. 21. The penalty of violating the Sabbath was death. True. Numbers 15:32-35. Now while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering sticks on the Sabbath day. Then the Lord said to Moses, the man must surely be put to death. 22. Why did God kill Nadab and Abihu? They conspired against Moses, committed adultery, they offered profane fire, or they insulted Moses. They offered profane fire. Numbers 26:61. And Nadab and Abihu died when they offered profane fire before the Lord. 23. On which mountain did Aaron die? Mount Hor, Mount Carmel, Mount Sinai, or Mount Nebo? Mount Hor. Numbers 33:39. Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. 24. What was the condition of Moses' eyes when he died? Weak, not dim, dim, or blind? Not dim. Deuteronomy 34:7. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not dim, nor his natural vigor diminished. 25. How old was Joshua when he died? 110, 180, 120, or 170? 110. Joshua 24:29. Now it came to pass after these things that Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died being 110 years old. 26. How were oxen that gored people to death killed? Stoning, fire, drowning, or hanging? Stoning. Exodus 21:28. If an ox gores a man or a woman to death, then the ox shall surely be stoned, and its flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be acquitted. 27. How was Naboth killed? Burned, hanged, stoned, or drowned? Stoned. 1 Kings 21:14. Then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth has been stoned and is dead. 28. Who was killed by God for emitting on the ground to avoid impregnating his brother's wife? Zerah, Perez, or Onan? Onan. Genesis 38:9-10. But Onan knew that the heir would not be his, when he went into his brother's wife, that he emitted on the ground, lest he should give an heir to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, therefore he killed him also. 29. Which animals did David kill to protect his flock? Lion and bear. 1 Samuel 17:36. Your servant has killed both lion and bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. 30. How many pigs drowned after being possessed by the legion of demons? 500, 3,000, 1,000, or 2,000? 2,000. Mark 5:13. And at once Jesus gave them permission. Then the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine. There were about 2,000, and the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea and drowned in the sea. 31. What was Pharaoh's reaction when he heard Moses killed an Egyptian? Forgave Moses, imprisoned Moses, sought to kill Moses, or exiled Moses? Sought to kill Moses. Exodus 2:15. When Pharaoh heard of this matter, he sought to kill Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. 32. How many times did David escape when Saul wanted to pin him to the wall with a spear? 4 times, twice, once, or 3 times? Twice. 1 Samuel 18:11. And Saul cast the spear, for he said, I will pin David to the wall, but David escaped his presence twice. 33. What did God say Abel's blood was doing? Crying out to him, cursing Cain, demanding justice, or seeking vengeance? crying out to him. Genesis 4:10, and he said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." 34. Who escaped the massacre of Saul on the priests? Ahimelech, Samuel, Abiathar, or Zadok? Abiathar. 1 Samuel 22:20. Now one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. 35. Why did Joab and Abishai kill Abner? He betrayed David, stole from the treasury, conspired against Saul, or killed their brother Asahel. Killed their brother Asahel. 2 Samuel 3:30. So Joab and Abishai, his brother, killed Abner because he had killed their brother Asahel as Gibeon in the battle. 36. How many people under Joab's command struck and killed Absalom, David's son? 10, 5, 12, or 7? 10. 2 Samuel 18:15. And 10 young men who bore Joab's armor surrounded Absalom and struck and killed him. 37. How many years of famine did Israel endure because Saul had killed the Gibeonites? 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or 1 year? "3 years." 2 Samuel 21:1. Now there was a famine in the days of David for 3 years, year after year, and David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord answered, "It is because of Saul and his bloodthirsty house, because he killed the Gibeonites." 38. How did the Gibeonites kill the 7 male descendants of Saul in vengeance? Stoned them, hanged them, burned them, or drowned them? Hanged them. 2 Samuel 21:9. And he delivered them into the hands of the Gibeonites, and they hanged them on the hill before the Lord. So they fell all 7 together, and were put to death in the days of harvest. 39. Why did Elijah call fire from heaven to destroy the 50 men? They mocked God, worshipped Baal, sought to arrest him, or defiled the altar. Sought to arrest him. 2 Kings 1:11. Then he sent a captain of 50 with his men, and he answered, "Man of God," the king said, "come down quickly." So Elijah answered and said to them, "If I am a man of God, let fire come down from heaven and consume you." 40. How did the man who withstood Elisha's word about cheap food being sold at the gate die? By fire, chariot, being trampled, or stoning? Being trampled. 2 Kings 7:17. Now the king had appointed the officer on whose hand he leaned to have charge of the gate. But the people trampled him in the gate, and he died, just as the man of God had said, who spoke when the king came down to him. 41. The woman that was brought to Jesus for adultery was stoned to death. False. John 8:9. Then those who heard it, being convicted by their conscience, went out one by one, beginning with the oldest even to the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. 42. What did the king do when he heard that a woman in Samaria boiled her son and ate him? He tore his clothes, executed her, imprisoned her, or flogged her? He tore his clothes. 2 Kings 6:29. So he boiled my son and ate him. And I said to her on the next day, "Give your son that we may eat him." But she has hidden her son. Now it happened when the king heard the words of the woman that he tore his clothes. 43. What did Goliath threaten to do with David's body if he killed him? Hang it, burn it, feed it to birds, or bury it? Feed it to birds. 1 Samuel 17:44. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. 44. What had the king promised to anyone who would kill Goliath? Wealth, his daughter for wife, freedom from taxes, or all of the above? All of the above. 1 Samuel 17:25. The men of Israel said, Have you seen this man who has come up? And it shall be that the man who kills him, the king will enrich with great riches, will give him his daughter, and give his father's house exemption from taxes. 45. At whose funeral did Jesus weep? Lazarus. John 11:34. And he said, Where have you laid him, Lazarus? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. 46. What did the prophets say would happen to Jezebel's body as vengeance for killing Naboth? Dogs would eat her, she would be burned, she'd be stoned, or she'd be hanged. Dogs would eat her. 1 Kings 21:23. And concerning Jezebel, the Lord also spoke, saying, The dogs shall eat Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel. 47. Who among these was killed by a woman? Eglon, Jerubbaal, Sisera, or Goliath? Sisera. Judges 4:21. Then Jael, Heber's wife, took a tent peg and took a hammer in her hand, and went softly to him, Sisera, and drove the peg into his temple. And it went down into the ground, for he was fast asleep and weary, so he died. 48. Where did Joseph hide Jesus to protect him from being killed by Herod? Jericho, Egypt, Nazareth, or wilderness? Egypt. Matthew 2:13. Now behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, take the young child and his mother, flee to Egypt, and stay there until I bring you word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. 49. Why did Herod plan to kill Jesus after the wise men told him about his birth? He saw him as a threat to his throne, he hated the plans of God, he is commanded by Rome, or wanted to fulfill a prophecy. He saw him as a threat to his throne. Matthew 2:2, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. 50. Jezebel killed the prophets of God. True. 1 Kings 18:13. Was it not reported to my Lord that what I did when Jezebel killed the prophets of the Lord, how I hid 100 men of the Lord's prophets, 50 to a cave, and fed them with bread and water? 51. How was the money that Judas was given to betray Jesus used after he returned it? Given to the poor, returned to the temple treasury, used to buy a potter's field, or kept by the priests? Used to buy a potter's field. Matthew 27:6-7. But the chief priests took the silver pieces and said, It is not lawful to put them into the treasury, because they are the price of blood. And they consulted together and bought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. 52. What did the bystanders say of Jesus while he was on the cross to prove his sonship? Call fire from heaven, raise yourself from the dead, curse God and die, or come down from the cross. Come down from the cross. Matthew 27:40, and saying, You who destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross. 53. Who buried the body of Jesus? Mary Magdalene, Joseph of Arimathea, Peter, James, and John, or Nicodemus? Joseph of Arimathea, Matthew 27:59-60. When Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his new tomb, which he had hewn out of the rock, and he rolled a large stone against the door of the tomb and departed. 54. What is the name of the place where Jesus was crucified? Calvary. Luke 23:33. And when they had come to the place called Calvary, there they crucified him, and the criminals, one on the right hand and the other on his left. 55. What happened to the sun the hour that Jesus died? Darkened, shone brighter, disappeared, or turned red? Darkened. Luke 23:44-45. Now it was about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. Then the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was torn in two. 56. Which prophet did the people think Jesus was calling to on the cross? Moses, Elijah, Elisha, or Samuel? Elijah. Mark 15:36. Then someone ran and filled a sponge full of sour wine, put it on a reed, and offered it to him to drink, saying, "Let him alone. Let us see if Elijah will come to take him down." 57. How many youths were killed by two bears for mocking Elisha's bald head? 24, 50, 42, or 12? "42. 2 Kings 2:24. So he turned around and looked at them, and pronounced a curse on them in the name of the Lord. And two female bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of the youths. 58. At what hour was Jesus crucified? 1st hour, 3rd hour, 6th hour, or 9th hour? Third hour. Mark 15:25. Now it was the 3rd hour, and they crucified him. 59. What disease killed King Asa? Leprosy, feet disease, paralysis, or demon possession? Feet disease. 2 Chronicles 16:12. And in 39th year of his reign, Asa became diseased in his feet, and his malady was severe, yet in his disease he did not seek the Lord but the physicians. So Asa rested with his fathers. 60. Who are the two sons of Naomi that died in Moab? Obed and Elimelech, Mahlon and Obed, Mahlon and Obed, or Mahlon and Chilion? Mahlon and Chilion. Ruth 1:5. Then both Mahlon and Chilion also died, so the woman survived her two sons and her husband. 61. Fill in the blank. Do not fear those who kill the body blank the soul, but save and destroy and imprison or but cannot kill. But cannot kill. Matthew 10:28. And do not fear those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. 62. Which commandment says thou shalt not kill? 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th? Sixth, Exodus 20:12-13. Honor your father and mother, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. 63. Who does the book of Revelation say was drunk with blood of the saints? Woman on the scarlet beast, Antichrist, false prophet, or scarlet beast? Woman on scarlet beast. Revelation 17:6. I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus, and when I saw her I marveled with great amazement. 64. What did Samson retrieve from the carcass of the lion he killed? Jawbone, teeth, honey, or meat? Honey. Judges 14:8. After some time, when he returned to get her, he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and behold, a swarm of bees and honey were in the carcass of the lion. He took some of it in his hands and went along eating. 65. How many people did Samson kill with the jawbone of a donkey? 10,000, 1,000, 10, or 100? 1,000. Judges 15:15. He found a fresh jawbone of a donkey, reached out his hand and took it, and killed 1,000 men with it. 66. How did Eli the high priest die? He fell backwards, old age, killed, or hanged himself. He fell backwards. 1 Samuel 4:18. Then it happened, when he made mention of the ark of God, that Eli fell off the seat backward by the side of the gate, and his neck was broken, and he died. For the man was old and heavy, and he had judged Israel 40 years. 67. Which king did Saul spare in battle? Then Samuel killed him. Og, Agag, Eglon, or Cyrus? Agag. 1 Samuel 15:31. So Samuel turned back after Saul, and Saul worshipped the Lord. Then Samuel said, "Bring Agag, king of the Amalekites, here to me." And Samuel hacked Agag in pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. 68. How old was Jairus' daughter, whom Jesus raised from the dead? 10 years, 8 years, 12 years, or 14 years? 12 years. Mark 5:41-42. Then he took the child by the hand and said to her, Talitha Kumi, which is translated, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." Immediately the girl arose and walked, for she was 12 years of age. 69. What did the Levite do with the body parts of his concubine after dismembering her? Sent them to the high priest, burnt them in secret, used them to perform a ritual, or sent them to the tribes of Israel? Sent them to the tribes of Israel. Judges 19:29. When he entered his house, he took a knife, laid hold of his concubine, and divided her into 12 pieces, limb by limb, and sent her throughout all the territory of Israel. 70. Who was the first man to die? Cain, Adam, Abel, or Seth? Abel. Abel was the first man to die, killed by Cain his brother. Genesis 3:8. Now Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and killed him. 71. What was the magnitude of the vengeance for anyone who killed Cain? 7 times, 70 times, 17 times, or 77 times? 7 times. Genesis 4:15. And the Lord said to him, Therefore, whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark on Cain, lest anyone finding him should kill him. 72. How did the Israelites kill the man Rehoboam sent to collect revenue? Stoned him to death, burned him in public, hanged him on a tree, or drowned him in the Jordan? Stoned him to death. 1 Kings 12:18. Then King Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was in charge of the revenue, but all Israel stoned him with stones, and he died. Therefore King Rehoboam mounted his chariot in haste to flee to Jerusalem. 73. Which people group did Pilate mingle their blood with sacrifices? Samaritans, Greeks, Galileans, or Romans? Galileans. Luke 13:1. There were present at the season some who told him about the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices. 74. What did the chief priests plan to do with Lazarus after Jesus raised him from the dead? Put him to death, send him away, protect him, or honor him? Put him to death. John 12:10-11. But the chief priests plotted to put Lazarus to death also, because on account of him many of the Jews went away and believed in Jesus. 75. Whom did the dogs lick his sores before he died? Lazarus, Mary's mother, Lazarus the beggar, blind Bartimaeus, or the beggar at the gate beautiful? Lazarus the beggar, Luke 16:20-21. But there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, full of sores, who was laid at his gate, desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. 76. Where did Lazarus the beggar end up after his death? Heaven's gate, hell, Abraham's bosom, or paradise? Abraham's bosom, Luke 16:22. So it was that the beggar died and was carried by the angels to Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. 77. What did Abraham say to the rich man in hell who asked for water? Lazarus would give him. There was a huge gulf between them. He told him to endure, or an angel would give it to him. There was a huge gulf between them. Luke 16:26. And besides all this, between us and you there is a great gulf fixed, so that those who want to pass from here to you cannot, nor can those from there pass to us. 78. What did Jesus say to Lazarus as he raised him from the dead? Lazarus, wake up. Lazarus, be well. Lazarus, arise. Or Lazarus, come forth. Lazarus, come forth. John 11:43. Now when he had said these things, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. 79. What did Abraham say would happen if a man would rise to warn the brothers of the rich man? They would not be persuaded, they would listen and repent, they would fear and believe, or they would reject him. They would not be persuaded. Luke 16:31. But he said to him, if they do not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded though one rise from the dead. 80. How many were killed when the Tower of Siloam fell? 13, 23, 83, or 18? 18 people. Luke 13:4. Are those 18 on whom the tower in Siloam fell and killed them? Do you think that they were worse sinners than all the other men who dwelt in Jerusalem? And that's all our questions for today. So let us know how you did down below, then share this with your friends and family, and we'll see you in the next one.